It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
Sunday morning, time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive experience. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to Portland's automotive radio show, Test Miles. Locally created, nationally celebrated, we've assembled a team of car freaks at the station to enlighten you with witty banter, useful information, and fun automotive topics. Our team in the studio this week includes Oli the Viking Volvo seller. You brought your daughter in today.
I did. Say hello, Viv.
Excellent. I'm glad somebody's looking after you today. Oli.
That's right.
Did you sell any cars this week?
We did. It was a good week.
Good, excellent. I'm glad you can eat this weekend. Sean Walker, a car and cat lover, is here. Sean, what were you doing this week?
I was driving $2.3 million worth of cars and just having a good time.
A good week. We'll talk about that later in the show. And the show's daddy, Brad Boyer, is here.
Hey, good morning.
And have you had a good week?
I had a great week. I did my community service yesterday, and it wasn't the kind I used to have to do. It was for our church, and we did all kinds of road cleanup. Since I had so much experience on road crew, I kind of told them what to do.
I love the fact that you're here. So the choice between the church and us, and we won.
But we're established a car show for after church today, so I'm running up.
You've managed somehow to get cars in a Sunday.
Combining church and cars.
Perfect. I love it. All right, how much do you know about what happened in the automotive world this week? Well, this is part of our show. We like to test the in-studio crew on their knowledge of the news, and this is called the News Quiz. So let's start off this morning with questions and see how well-read and well-informed the crew are about what's going on in the automotive world. First question this morning, who's putting the brakes on sales orders with their iconic car?
Ding.
Sean.
This would be Corvette, or GM with their Corvette. There's a brake cable issue going on, so they stopped sales with it to make sure that it's safe.
Do we know how many they used to sell, or they do sell of this car?
I don't offhand. I think it was, I don't know, but it's their top seller and their number one, or most.
I don't know. I don't think it's their top seller. I think they sell
not top seller, but I mean everyone wants one.
It's they don't make very many of the Corvettes. I think it's very few every day, and so it's not going to hit them financially, but it certainly is a big ego push. All right, second question this morning: which two manufacturers are getting fined for price fixing?
I got that. So it's Chrysler and Audi over in China. They're getting fined. Well, VW Audi, they're getting fined $40 million, and then Chrysler $5 million. It's for price fixing, but I'm still trying to get my head around a dealer sets the price anyway for a vehicle and for their parts. So you go into a Mercedes dealer and you pay 3 times more than you would at an aftermarket store. So how in the States, so how is it price fixing in China?
I think what happens, price fixing in general, is we will sell our A3 at this price if you sell your car at this price, and it's agreed that they don't go any lower. So
and
it's
you're naive and you feel that doesn't go on?
It's illegal. I will just tell you it's illegal. The difficulty with that is what happens is they have a bottom line number, and so then it rules out competition, and this brings up a very interesting point. So what about Tesla? Because Tesla are sold by Tesla Car Company. So they can sell them for whatever they want. The difficulty is when you go and buy a Chrysler or you go and buy an Audi in Portland, there are 2 Audi dealers and multiple Chrysler dealers where they can fight each other on price and start cutting that. With Tesla, you can't do that. And that's one of the arguments about them selling directly to the public. Just one of many arguments about them selling directly to the public, because they can fix their own prices. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very in-depth, and there's huge government investigative bureaus who look into price fixing.
And the question in China, too, is are they targeting, because they're looking at Mercedes and a couple other companies, are they targeting specific countries? And
I think price fixing only works when everybody in a certain kind of car price fixes. So if Mercedes, Audi, and BMW price fix the price of their small sports sedan, that would be an issue. But I'm not sure how one company gets caught and not another. Because can they fix their own price when they don't fix it against somebody else's? I guess I would have to do more investigations. Who's recalling over 100,000 cars for a stalling issue?
I got that one in.
Only's the only one to have a real buzzer instead of
Well,
a,
I mean,
a
it's
verbal.
it's a free app if you guys want to get it. But tops right now is Ford with 133,000 cars. This is the Ford ST and also the Edge or the Escape that have the 2-liter EcoBoost engine. There's a wiring harness issue with the wiring going to the map sensor that's causing a possible stalling. The Toyota Tundra is not far behind with 130,000 vehicles because of improperly installed side trim that can affect the side airbags.
It's kind of interesting that we've been trying to work out why so many recalls this year. I mean, I think we're over double the highest year on record. I have to go look at the exact numbers.
We could have a 5th segment maybe for the show
just on recalls.
on recalls, I think.
One
I mean,
of
because there's other ones. There's Escape and the Mariner are having an issue with the coolant pump for the hybrid system. Even the Porsche, how do you pronounce it? Macan?
Macan.
Oh, I thought you meant, how do you pronounce Porsche?
It's Porsche.
Porsche.
This is what they told
Macan.
me. A Porsche is something that you sit on and watch the sunset. A Porsche is something you drive. Or my
Yeah.
dog.
So
Or-
so they make it, but they have some of those have a brake booster issue. But we're talking about with the Porsches, you're talking about 7 cars.
Right.
That's a much more respectable number, I think.
So the reason there are so many recalls is basically everybody is frightened because the government now are going to start. If you do a self-imposed recall, much better than having the government tell you to do a recall. All right, next question in this morning's news quiz: which luxury car brand will introduce automated driving in 2017?
A non-automated ding from me.
Okay,
So,
analog ding.
yes, this is Cadillac, and Mary Barra, is that how we pronounce the chairman of GM?
Barra.
Barra. She finally gets to come to the podium and talk about interesting, fun things besides recalls, so this is nice. But it's Cadillac, and they're coming out with, it's not a completely driverless car, but it's an automated system called the Super Cruise. So it's hands-free, feet-free. If you're in traffic, you can take your hands and feet off the wheel and just drive like that. So if you're in a rush hour up to Vancouver, although we don't really have too many Cadillacs up there, but
Poor Vancouver.
There is a Cadillac dealership in Vancouver, Brad.
There is.
yeah, but people from Portland come up there. So it's not a fully automated driverless car, but it's a close step up there.
They did also announce this week actually car-to-car communication. So it's potentially this technology they've been talking about over the years coming up. Car-to-car communications means you could travel at hundreds of miles an hour, 200 miles an hour with a car, and it would know where all the other cars are on the road, and they could be 2 inches apart. Potentially in the models, that is possible.
And they know where you are.
And they know where you are
that's
all the
the
time.
thing.
Well, and some of us people need to know where some of us are at some times. What car is in such a demand that people are paying 50% premium for it?
I got that one.
You've got to have the same ding, Oli. You've got to have
sorry.
a different ding. There we go.
Let me go ahead and buzz in. The BMW i8 is in incredible demand right now, enough to where there was a customer in the UK that got the car delivered in July, then also got word from the dealer that somebody else is looking for one, and they're willing to pay some more to the tune of 45,000 pounds or $73,000. Well, $73,190.25
At today's
as
rate.
of today. But I mean, on a $154,000 car, I mean that's
And that's
pretty
the,
good.
the super interesting part about that story is he'd already taken delivery of it. We've seen
Correct.
a lot. The cars go for a lot more in auction here in Portland, and people pay up to 100% premium in the United States. But to already have driven the car off the lot and then be able to sell it for that much more money, that's kind of interesting.
yeah,
as
that's
well.
used.
That's pretty good return on investment there.
Yeah, yeah.
And Sean and I actually just drove the i8 this week. All right, next question. Which hugely popular urban passenger vehicle announced pricing for their new EV?
Okay, I've got that. Since I am all things electric.
Okay.
The Kia Soul EV set their price at $33,700, which is about $5,000 more than the Leaf. And so you've still got the $7,500 exemptions. But a couple things nice on this. I think the interior is going to be better. It's going to be a better-looking vehicle. And it actually gets about 92 miles on the range versus the mid-80s for the Nissan Leaf. Part of that is the HVA system. It's kind of interesting. If you're in the car, there's a setting where the air conditioning will only blow on the driver. So it frees up. That churns down.
Sorry. Sorry for you.
All right.
That you're driving around in there.
Yeah.
The passenger. I think I'm going to just set it like that, no matter who's in the car.
I'm sorry, are you sweating? Oh dear, I'm the only one
But
with
if
air
you've driven
conditioning.
one of these cars and you turn on
cold
the air
over here.
conditioning, you can just see the mileage plummet on your range.
All right, and final question this morning. What car had its world premiere in London's Earl's Court this week?
Ding.
Sure.
That would be Jaguar XE. And this is kind of going to be Jaguar's new entry level. You know more about it, but it's like what, compared to a 3 Series?
Yes, and this is the car that they're hoping that will pull Jag ahead. If they don't sell enough of these XEs, they could be in trouble.
Wow. I mean, it has some impressive numbers for a V6. It's a 3-liter, 340 horsepower, so it should have some good performance. It looks awesome, too.
Well done, guys. That's the news quiz this morning. Coming up on the show this morning, we'll be talking about those 25 cars that Sean and I drove to Sisters and back in the Northwest Automotive Press Association's Run to the Sun. Also, Lee Jelnick will be joining us from Lincoln to talk about the brand new Navigator, and we'll talk about what we've been driving. It's a Sunday morning on FM News 101 KXL, and you're listening to Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
I always feel like I'm in a bad 80s movie when I hear this music. You're listening to Test Miles and TestMiles.com. Recent podcasts are available at TestMiles.com. Just click on the upper right-hand corner, and it says Podcasts Radio Show right there. Here's a fun fact for you to impress your friends with. 92% of all new cars sold in Brazil use ethanol, which is made from sugarcane. Well, fancy and fast cars are always part of the celebrity lifestyle. In the 1990s, the Lincoln Navigator was in songs, movies, and seen at the best night spots in Hollywood. But the vehicle faded as more fuel-efficient cars became popular. You may recognize the new version of the full-size SUV as a Navigator. When you look at it, it's a vehicle that is close to 2 decades, but has had some very recent refreshes. It's part of American history, and Lincoln's first SUV, and their first four-wheel drive unit, by the way, for the company. The Lincoln Motor Company started the price at $42,000 when it went on sale about 17 years ago, and now we're in the 4th generation. It's been updated. It's a very nice piece of machinery, and a lot has changed. We've managed to track down somebody from the Lincoln Motor Company, spokesmodel Lee Jelnick, who joins us on the phone this morning. Lee, so the new Navigator gets a 3.5-liter V6 EcoBoost engine.
Yes, it does, Nick. How are you? Good to talk to you.
No V8 anymore, Lee?
No V8. We have... The proof is in the numbers. So the 3.5-liter V6 EcoBoost, and EcoBoost has been such a strong brand and performer across both the Ford and Lincoln lineup. So the 3.5 will deliver 380 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. So, and then it will deliver best-in-class estimated fuel economy.
You made some good changes to that fuel economy. What are we looking at now, Lee?
So we're looking at, in the 4x2 mode, we're looking at 16 in the city, 22 in the highway for an 18 overall. And that's best in class. I mean, when you compare that to the 2015 Escalade, the Escalade's at 15 city, 21 highway. So we're in a good position right now.
Excellent. And of course, that's always been the difficulty with these large SUVs. But I guess if you're buying one, and you're buying this kind of luxury, you probably don't care too much about fuel economy. New front end for you, the new Lincoln grille is on this version of the vehicle.
Yeah, so this version of the vehicle, and I want to make it clear to your listeners that this is not one of the 4 all-new vehicles in 4 years that we've talked about with Lincoln, but this is a refresh, but it's an important refresh for us, and in part of that refresh, we did put the new split-wing grille on so that it fits much better in the showroom with the rest of the new vehicles that we're launching.
And then at the back end, you've done some remodeling, too, on this new Navigator. 222 LED bulbs, I understand.
That is correct. You remember very well from our time in Louisville. Yes, 222 LEDs in all, and that includes daytime running lamps. There's headlamp accents. There's tail lamps, and then that also includes the Lincoln welcome mat that as you approach the vehicle, when you unlock it, you'll get the welcome mat shown down kind of like a puddle lamp out of the rearview mirrors.
I really love that part of the car, and it's something that you guys have done way before the competition. You got in on that. But the real beauty in this car is the driving and the interior. So fine leather, everything on the inside.
You're right. I mean, the driving is kind of the first thing you notice. It's what surprises you the most. If you're used to driving a vehicle this size, you tend to be used to having some turbo lag, and with the EcoBoost, you don't have any turbo lag. We've got the Lincoln Drive Control, which is our continuously controlled damping. So we have 3 different drive modes, but it's a very smooth drive, a very comfortable drive. And then it really is brought home with all the improvements we've made on the interior. So we have Eagle Ottawa premium leather seating, which is a very high-end and rare leather. We've also got some really interesting wood. So we've got a Zirconi wood veneer in our reserve package, which is a very rare wood, and I believe this is the first application of Zirconi wood in automobiles. It's a green harvested wood from Central and South America.
Very beautiful on the inside, but let's get back to that driving dynamics. Now, I will tell you the first thing I noticed when driving this, and I was on the trip recently to Louisville. I went down there to visit you guys and test drive this new Navigator. The drive feels like that of an Explorer or something smaller because it doesn't have that sway and roll and pitch that a heavy vehicle does.
You're right. I mean, that was one of the most important parts of this refresh, was to make sure that throughout the drive and whatever conditions you're in, you don't have that, whether it's the turbo lag of the powertrain or whether it's the sway and roll as you described. And we enjoyed having you down there in Louisville and put that drive together to make sure that it really tested the vehicle. And I'm glad that you saw that everything we did with our new suspension and Hydrolift and the Lincoln Drive Control really paid off.
Let's talk about third row. You do have a third row in this, right?
Yes, we do. We have a third row, and we actually have a best-in-class third row. And so some of that comes from the fact that we have an independent rear suspension, and we've had that for a long time on Navigator, although we maybe haven't done the best job of telling that story, but we are now. So the independent third row suspension allows a lower floor line, and because of that, we've got best-in-class third row hip room at over 50 inches, 50.1 inches, so that's good for almost 2 inches better than our number one competitor, Escalade. And then best-in-class third row legroom as well at 37.7 inches, which is, again, far outpacing the competition. And then we also, because of that, we have with the cargo or with the second and third rows folded, we also have best-in-class cargo volume at 103 cubic feet. So all in, the second and third row and the packaging are, as always, you can expect the best from Navigator, and that's what we've delivered this time.
Excellent, and even the big guys like the 4 guys in the studio here could fit in that third row. Let's talk about price and availability.
Sure. Okay, so the new Navigator will start at $62,475, so that's $62,475, and it'll be priced all the way up to $68,215. So it's about a $6,000 or $8,000 range, but it's still at a much better value than maybe some of the other vehicles in the segment, and it'll be available in dealerships next month.
Excellent, Lee. It's always good to have you on. I enjoy getting educated by you, and we'll talk very, very soon. That is Lee from the Lincoln Motor Company talking about the new Navigator. You're listening to Test Miles and FM News 101 KXL. We'll talk about 25 of the best cars in America next.
Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com.
Sunday morning on FM News 101 KXL. This is Test Miles, Portland's automotive radio show at testmiles.com. Try following us on Facebook. Here is a fun fact for you to impress your friends with. In the first year of VW Beetle sales, they only sold 330 cars in the United States. Who would know it would become such a big hit? 330 cars. And I'm not sure a car company could be in business if it sold that of its model today. Now, last week, Sean and I spent 2 days driving to Sisters, Oregon and back as part of the Northwest Automotive Press Association's Run to the Sun. Every 20 miles, approximately, we changed into a different car. An incredible experience and a list of cars, which is unbelievable. It rounded off with a private party that the Test Miles crew had with all the auto manufacturers. So let's talk about some of those cars. I'll read the list off to you, and then we'll jump back in and talk about the ones that impressed us the most. The Acura TLX, the Alfa Romeo 4C, Audi's S4, the Bentley Continental GT Convertible V8 Speed, BMW's i8, the Cadillac ATS Coupe, the Chevy SS, the Dodge Challenger Hellcat, the Dodge Viper, the Fiat Abarth 500, the Ford Fiesta ST, the Honda Civic Si Coupe, the Hyundai Genesis, Jaguar's F-Type, the coupe version of that car, the Kia K900, the Lexus ISF, Mazda MX-5 Miata, the Mercedes-Benz C-Class, the Mercedes-Benz S550, the Mitsubishi Lancer, the Nissan GTR, the Rolls-Royce Wraith, which I happen to be driving today, the Scion FRS, the Subaru WRX STI, and the Volkswagen Golf GTI. That's a pretty impressive day of 2 days of driving.
You forgot Chrysler 200.
Well, we could talk about that a little bit. The Chrysler 200, unfortunately, one of the cars, which was the Acura TLX, had a transmission failure during it, which is probably because one of the journalists was thrashing it, and had to be taken out because it was a pre-production model. And
The journalist or the car?
Had to be put down.
the journalist should have been taken out, but the car was taken out, and the Chrysler 200S was put in instead, which was a very impressive drive.
I like that car.
It's
That's
a really
great.
impressive
It's right
car.
up there to the Optima.
All
Not-
right.
Not like the rest of your cars here.
So you got to see them, Brad. You didn't get to drive them though.
Yeah, I was semi-responsible and had work to do, so I brought my 5-year-old twins down and asked them which ones they wanted. And they were lovely to look at. I'm sure that would have been great fun to drive. But Melanie picked the Viper as her favorite, and Kate picked the Alfa Romeo.
Did he?
Which I took pictures of everything. That was the car that got the most Facebook comments and other comments on websites from all the vehicles that I posted.
Yeah, I think they're definitely good cars to look at. Impressed very much with the smaller cars, and that the Golf GTI, the Lancer, actually kept up on some of those roads. That was very impressive. Sean, your favorites?
My favorite, obviously, is the Viper, and that's just because I love the Viper. But I like the Alpha, or the 4C. I wasn't impressed with the BMW i8, and I know everyone's giving me lack about that, but I thought the car was had way too much tech in it to just be a driving car.
You know, you sound like you're getting to be an old man. You're starting to sound like Brad.
Well, I asked for his walker today, but, get off my back's hurting.
I think, then there was definitely some very cool cars. The i8, one of my favorites. Very impressed with the Chevy SS.
Oh, I love that car with the LS engine in it. I mean,
Yeah, it's basically their version of the street NASCAR.
yeah, but that was very impressive. I mean, because I was going a little over speed, and you don't realize how fast you're going in that car.
No,
it's a comfortable ride, and you have tons of room in the back for kids or anyone.
I think that the GM companies do great with their medium to large cars. I'm not too hot on their smaller cars.
No.
But I think their large cars do really, really well, especially Buick and Cadillac and now that Chevy. I love the Impala too, but the SS was very impressive. You have seen the Hellcat a lot, but you've never driven it.
No, this is the first time driving it, and I'm one of the journalists that had to smoke the tires in it. But it's a nice car. I mean, it's one of those cars I kind of lost my appeal on it, like I had to have, and now it's just one of those cars, if I had Powerball, it's one I'd just have there. I wouldn't want it as a daily driver. It's too
much, isn't it?
It's way too much power.
Yeah.
And I'm a type of guy who loves horsepower, but it's just too much power to have for a daily driver.
You have to concentrate on not pushing the accelerator down too much, because as you leave a light, you will just smoke it. I mean, really, really smoke it. I was watching journalists pull out of some of the rest stops, not realizing what they were in. And I was one of the first guys in that car, and I set it to the track mode. And a lot of times they'll get in that car, you leave it running because you want the air conditioning on as you change cars between drivers at stops, and they'll get in it and they'll push the accelerator down too much, and the back end, it slides all over the road. And I'm watching them do it and going, oh, yeah.
Was that in the 707 horsepower? Or is that what the max is?
The max is.
Is that the red key or the blue key?
The red key. So the black key, which it comes with, it senses which key you have in the car. If you have the red in, it overrules the black. But the black will give you just the 500 horsepower. The red key, 707 horsepower. And then you can go into the app settings and set it for sports driving, regular driving, track driving, and then we were doing a little bit of track driving on the roads of Oregon.
Yeah, and I mean, to do one of my burnouts, I took the traction control off, and it went sideways real fast.
Yeah.
He said one of my burnouts.
Yeah, but you didn't do that.
I asked first.
You didn't do that as part of the event, did you? No, of course.
No, I asked.
There is this fascination and this movement with Hellcat burnouts. I mean, you could do a burnout in a lot of cars, but there is like the car isn't out yet, and there's a ton of burnout videos in this car.
Well, and I think that's what it is. It's one of those old classic muscle cars where it's awesome to go fast, straight, and that's about it.
The Hyundai Genesis and the Kia K900 also impress people for a price tag of around $60,000. What you get in those cars is great. My last leg was done in that Genesis, and I'm just as impressed with it as the day I drove it for the first time. That is a great luxury vehicle for the price of $60,000.
I totally agree with you. If that would be a daily driver for me. Even the V6, I'm happy with the horsepower in it because it feels like it's a V8 in it.
The other major surprises were the Mercedes-Benz C-Class and S550 because they would keep up with the performance cars, yet they are sedate luxury sedans. But you put your pedal to the metal on those things, and they really move, and they're easy to control, and the ride's comfortable.
I had an awesome story in the S-Class because I set everything to massage. So I was getting a massage as I was driving, going up the freeway, and I wasn't realizing I was doing 90 and came up on a state trooper in a Explorer, and he just bleeps his lights and let me win. Or he's just like, slow down and let me go.
He probably thought you were some kind of judge or something.
Oh, it was nice, though. I mean, I had full back massage. It was awesome.
And then the GTR, we're going to talk about the Rolls-Royce Wraith when we get into the last one. The GTR, great sports car from Nissan, but it's kind of a rough ride.
It is a rough ride. I mean, it's a track car. It's one of those cars I'd love to have on the track, but not as a daily driver. One of the sports cars that I really loved was the F-Type. I was surprised with it.
Right.
I've driven the F-Type before, yeah, but I like the coupe. Although I still think I would take the convertible over the coupe.
No, I think living in Oregon, you would now, but when it gets to winter, you would definitely want the coupe. I think the convertible is really nice, but it's too much. I think Oregon only has about 3 months of top-down weather.
It's getting more than that now.
Well, traditionally, it only has July 4th onwards. And so I'm not sure I could handle having a convertible.
So I don't know if we've posted all the photos, but what was the official color of the Bentley convertible? Was it robin egg blue?
No, that's what I called it, but it's actually called something else. And Corey from Bentley ordered that color specially for the event in the car, and the company was a bit upset with him for ordering, but every single journalist looked at that car, and that robin's egg blue type of color, which is not his official name, was really great. And of course that Bentley is an unbelievable drive.
It's gorgeous. I helped somebody find one in the Silver Lake blue a few years ago, and that is a gorgeous car.
The other cars we shouldn't miss out talking about, the hot hatches, the Honda Civic Si Coupe and the Ford Fiesta ST, the FRS from Scion, the WRX STI, the Subaru, the Golf GTI, which I had on the hill climb, which was amazing. And keeping up with them was that Lancer SE from Mitsubishi. Everybody loves to dog on Mitsubishi, but when you got on that car and you put your foot down, it really performs. They've done a great job in making those cars perform.
I had to pass a lot of people in the Lancer because they were just dogging it. I was like, let me show them what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant drive. And then, of course, the staple there was the Lexus ISF. That did really well as well. So lots of really fun cars, not forgetting the Audi S4. But the Alfa Romeo, I was surprised, doesn't have power steering, the Alfa Romeo 4C.
But that was nice. It was actually nice going out and feeling the road for once.
Right. I'm hopefully I'm going to get that 4C for a couple of days as it comes back from Seattle before it gets shipped. But we'll have to hold our breath for that. And I feel bad for Acura, the TLX, and apparently the i8 had a transmission problem too. But that's what you get for putting 25 different journalists in your cars. All right, Sunday morning on FM News 101 KXL. You're listening to Test Miles, your automotive radio show. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about what we've been driving this week and also a few things about what's happening in the future on the show. We have our Land Rover back, by the way, for Project Land Rover, and Peter did an amazing job at Mobile West. We'll talk more about cars coming up. I am Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
You're enjoying Sunday morning listening to Test Smiles. There are Facebook thingies where you can go and click on them and enjoy following us in the week. Here's a fun fact for you to impress your friends with. In 1916, 55% of the cars in the world were Model T Fords. That's a record that has never been beaten, and it probably never will now because there are so many car companies. I think 42 car companies in the United States. Time to talk about what cars we've been driving this week and enjoying for the week, test driving them so we can bring you reports. I have had a few days, Thursday, Friday, and today, in the Rolls-Royce Wraith. This is a 2014. It is a new vehicle for them. It's a coupe, a sports coupe. It's sportier than the Ghost sedan upon which it's based. The 2014 Rolls-Royce Wraith delivers astonishing power, presence, and it's really no other car can be as luxurious as it that I have been in. It's really a hulking grand tourer. Swift acceleration is some of the good parts about it. More handling ability than the Rolls that came before it. It's lush, it's silent, it has a very nice cabin, exclusive only to Rolls, and really the only kind of car in its class. So there are a few cars that come close to that class. The difficulty is, one of the things that don't work so well for a lot of people is the price. Starting price is between $260,000 and $280,000. However, they have optioned this vehicle up to $370,000, which is just happens to be about what my house is worth at this very moment.
Like
in time.
2 houses in some places.
In some places, it's 2 houses. So very affluent price. Couple of things that are interesting about the car. The doors are coach-style doors, so they open the opposite way. People ask me, do you get a discount because they put the doors on the wrong way? They have a very clever button on the inside you can press that automatically closes the door. It has umbrellas in every door like all Rolls-Royces. It has a power gauge in it that tells you how much available power there is. So if you need to know what power ratio do I have out of that 629 horsepower, it tells you what's available.
But you're missing the coolest feature.
Which is?
The wheels.
Yes, that is it's one of the coolest features. The Rolls-Royce emblem on the wheels stays level at all times. So it's like spinners.
What about they're like floaters?
Yeah, floaters.
What about a pop-up hood?
It does, yes.
yes.
The Spirit of
That's nice
Ecstasy,
too.
which is the ornament. Did any of you know which way the Spirit of Ecstasy faces?
Forward.
Faces backwards. Faces towards the driver. The angel wings protect the driver. So when you look at it, Spirit of Ecstasy's wings are out. She's like that.
But she's looking backwards or looking
She
forward?
looks at the driver. Either that or mine's on backwards.
Yeah. it should be under warranty. and
Someone
that-
tried
for
to
that
steal
price,
it.
Here's one of the really cool
that
parts
price.
about the technology in the car. It has an 8-speed automatic shift transmission, but it has this predictive transmission. So what the transmission does, it looks at GPS and it looks at your navigation and it looks what tundra you're coming up and it selects the gear automatically for you depending on what road conditions are coming up. You think that could be a real problem, but going up hills, it knows not to change up too quickly. It'll keep you in lower gears because it knows there's a big hill coming up around the corner, which is very clever and gets ultimate performance out of your vehicle. Its competition is probably the Bentley Continental GT. Trim levels, whatever you want, basically. They have a bespoke program. They will do anything to the car. I have a couple of good stories about this bespoke program. There is a guy who had a tree that fell down in his yard, and he asked Rolls-Royce could they use the wood inside his car for this cherry tree. They did. They did all the interior wood with the wood from his cherry tree. A lady in China who owned a cleaning company that wanted to buy one, she had a pair of gloves that had sort of a red smudge on it from cleaning something, and she loved this reddy pink color, and she had them paint the car in that. So
What is she clean?
she has probably up 200 or 300 employees.
okay.
I don't think it's that kind. I don't think she's doing much
Because
cleaning.
I mean, I'll come over and start
Yeah,
cleaning your
cleaning for
house
her.
and clean Sean's house. I don't know.
A price for this 10 out of 10. I also wanted to update you quickly because we're running out of time for the show with the Ram 1500 Eco Diesel, which is our long-term test drive. We are getting about 22 miles a gallon out of it for an Eco Diesel full-size truck, which is absolutely amazing. We'll have some more stories on that. Brad, what have you been driving?
I haven't had a press car, but at Lucky Limousine, we got a new Sprinter van
Right.
for transporting a 13-passenger with extra luggage space in the back. I am in love with that car, as are my children.
Because they can run around in the back.
It's fantastic. Tall, beautiful, beautiful vehicle.
And a
I mean,
nice ride, too.
It's outstanding.
Those people that are in love with Sprinters and that size of vehicles are fanatical about them.
I could be.
Christian from Mercedes, who's not necessarily in charge of Sprinter, but is one of their the head chief PR guys, in love with Sprinter. He takes pictures of them around New York City, just on his Instagram because he's so in love with them.
And it's got the Blue Tech Clean Diesel. just drives great. Smooth. Really smooth to drive.
Sean, you got about a minute.
I had the 2015 Acura RDX all-wheel drive. I like this vehicle. It's a small little SUV, probably one of my favorite SUV or CUVs in the market. Handles really well, drives like a little car, gets around 23 miles combined. $40,000. I mean, it's a must-have if you want a luxury CUV.
And those, of course, the RDX have that great all-wheel drive system as well, which Acura is famous for.
It's one of my favorite cars to handle.
In that price tag, and for that kind of vehicle, I think it's based on the Honda CR-V, but in that price tag, that vehicle is really super popular. And Acura outselling a lot of competition in their SUV range. In fact, the MDX, which is its bigger brother, is the #1 selling luxury car with a third row in America, period. Because Americans just love their Acura SUVs, luxury and capability. And I'll tell you, that super handling all-wheel drive system that Acura have, I'm absolutely in love with. All right, guys, we've got a great week coming up. We'll be talking more about our Project Discovery come next week, and we'll have a packed show for you coming up then. In between now and then, feel free to go to testmiles.com and review what we've been doing over the week. Thanks for listening to Test Miles on FM News 101. Our TV segments are at testmiles.com as well, and all those social media things. If you're in need of car stuff, then go there this week. We'll see you next week here on KXL. Until then, bye-bye for now. I'm Nick Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.